This book begins with Nancy and her friends watching a horror movie. Nancy is scared out of her mind, and they all scream when somebody talks to them in the parking lot. Nancy is so afraid, she can't believe she didn't pee herself. Yes, this book starts with Nancy almost peeing herself because someone talked to her. This is not a good way to start the book.
Argo Funk Book Review, Argo Funk Book Review.
The parking lot visitors are a brother and sister named Willa and Owen. They're afraid for Willa's friend Izzy. Izzy has become angry and violent after visiting a haunted house. It's almost like she was forced to read this book. It's almost like she's possessed by a ghost. Nancy is scared, but she agrees to take the case. Nancy researches the house. Henry Furstenberg lived there with his elderly mother until a year ago. She was found dead in the basement, and he disappeared. The house has been abandoned ever since. It's currently owned by some random relative from out of state. Nancy claims that she's worked haunted house cases before, and they were all fakes, but this story is so scary, she can't help believe that it's real. George and Nancy talk to Izzy. Izzy seems normal, but as soon as they mention the house,
Izzy starts threatening them in an evil voice, and Nancy is scared.
They all go to the house. Bess jumps out and yells, "Boo!" Nancy screams, jumps, and smashes her head against the roof of her car. So, Bess is the brave one and Nancy is the cowardly comedy relief? When did the two of them switch personalities? Continuity! You probably noticed Nancy is afraid of everything in this book. Yes, that makes the story spooky, but it's also distractingly out of character. Like, who is this girl and what did she do with Nancy Drew? Nancy's supposed to be brave. She claims she doesn't believe in ghosts at all, and yet she spends the entire book telling herself to stop being a wuss. And she almost pees herself. Sorry, can't get over that. That's just disgusting horrible. In the longest chapter of the book, the three girls explore the haunted house. Nancy is constantly scared, and she screams several times when she sees a spray-painted face on a mirror. When it comes time to explore the basement, where the old woman died, Bess chickens out. Oh, now she's the scared one. So Nancy and George explore alone. Nancy relies heavily on George's braveness to get her through this. They find the room where the woman died, but it's locked. Who locked the door? Is it the ghost? I bet the ghost used the skeleton key. Sorry, stupid joke. Bess screams and they head back upstairs. It turns out that Owen and his friends arrived. Nancy gets super mad at him and she threatens to call the police on him. Everyone leaves, but Bess suddenly realizes she dropped her charm bracelet in the haunted house. They have to go back and get it. This is a kind of weak excuse to get everybody back in the haunted house, but okay, they go back inside, and the police show up. The girls are taken to the station, where they get a stern lecture, and they have to wait for their parents to pick them up. Super embarrassing. I'm sure the entire high school is going to gossip about this now. Surprisingly, Mr. Drew is totally fine with Nancy's arrest, and he gives her cookies to make her feel better. He's not a very good parent, is he? Nancy talks with Willa again, and she learns there's another victim, Gavin Yu. Nancy stays after school to talk to him. Instead of waiting inside like a normal person, Nancy stays outside by her car in the freezing cold for an hour. Gavin appears out of nowhere, pushes Nancy to the ground,
and he threatens her in the voice that can't possibly be his.
This scene was so cool. I loved it. It also made me sad because I know there is no way they can come up with a satisfactory explanation for this. In the next chapter, Nancy confronts Izzy. She proves that Izzy is faking it because Izzy doesn't do her evil possession routine when her parents are around. Or at least that's the idea behind the scene. In reality, Nancy only says 2 sentences in front of Izzy's mom before they go to Izzy's room. There really wasn't an opportunity for Izzy to do evil possession in front of her parents. In Izzy's room, Nancy sees the DVD for the scary movie they saw at the start of the book. She suddenly remembers the victim in the movie had violent tempers and scary voices. Well, these people are copying the movie! How did Nancy forget this information? She screamed for hours and almost peed herself over this movie. That was 2 days ago! How did she forget it that quickly? At midnight, the culprit wakes up Nancy with evil laughter. Hannah grabs a rolling pin and goes outside to smash the culprit on the head. Nancy notes that Hannah is a better sidekick than Bess and George. It's confirmed, Nancy hates her friends. The culprit left a note telling Nancy to meet them in the haunted house. Nancy is an idiot, so she doesn't call the police to arrest the culprit here. She doesn't bring Hannah along, even though Hannah is a better sidekick than Bess and George. And to finish off the parade of stupid ideas, Nancy forces Bess and George to stay several blocks away where they can't possibly help her. Forgetful Nancy forgets to bring her flashlight, so she's forced to use her cell phone light to see. That makes the house even spookier. She goes to the basement, where the culprit grabs her arm. She stands in place and does absolutely nothing while the culprit frisks her. Why? I would not let a strange man in a mask run his hands all over my body. But apparently, Nancy thinks otherwise. This is weird and creepy. The culprit reaches his hand into Nancy's pocket, takes out her cell phone, and sends Bess and George a text saying the phone's running out of battery and they should just go home. And then he takes the phone away. So now Nancy's trapped by herself! 3 more culprits appear, and they have a scary conversation about ghosts. Nancy gets a Scooby-Doo moment when she rips off the culprit's mask. Let's see who this spook really is! It's Henry Furstenberg! Henry explains he and his mother had a big fight moments before she died of a heart attack. He was afraid he'd be accused of murder, so he ran away for a year. When he found out the house was left to somebody else, he wanted revenge! I mean, real estate! He paid Izzy, Owen, and Gavin to pretend the house was haunted. That way the property values would go down, and he could buy the house for cheap. Henry announces a change of plans. He's going to tie Nancy up and set the house on fire. The teenagers argue with Henry here because they don't want to kill anyone. Nancy uses this as a distraction to run away, but Henry chases her. She smashes him on the head with a conveniently located snow shovel, but the monster is still coming after her. Then Bess and George appear. They say that text was a phony, and they knew it, because Nancy never forgets to charge her phone. Sure, she forgets her flashlight, but not her phone charger. Bess hits Henry with pepper spray, and he's arrested. In the end, the house becomes an elderly care facility. Henry is sent off to a mental facility, and all the teenagers are forced to take therapy. Nancy makes a joke about how she'll no longer be afraid of anything. I'm sure she's going to be scared of something in the next book. The end. Post-book follow-up. The pop culture references in this book confuse me. Sometimes they talk about real-life things like the Blair Witch Project. Other times they talk about imaginary celebrities like Lily Jo Jarrett. And other times they make references to real things, but they change the name, like when Fuller House becomes Packed House. Why isn't the book more consistent with its pop culture references? Also, I totally want to see Nancy Drew solve a mystery on the Fuller House set. Nancy Drew in the sitcom Sabotage. The reference that confused most people is the one where Bess mentions the old mystery books with yellow covers. You know, the original Nancy Drew series. So Bess reads books about herself? That's like Batman reading Justice League comics. It's weird. And now I'm starting to wonder if the author of this book knows this series also has yellow spines. How old is Nancy? She's normally 18, just out of high school and taking a year off before college, but in this book she's still going to high school and needs Daddy to sign her out of the police station. So is she 17? Is she a full-time student? Then how does she have enough free time to solve out-of-state mysteries in practically every book? Okay, I think I put off talking about the story long enough. The story is fine, but it's spoiled by Nancy being a humongous wimp on every single page, to the point where you might wonder if the author openly hates Nancy. The mystery is a little slow-paced at parts, but nothing too bad. I could take or leave the haunted house stuff myself, but I love the possession scenes. It was cool how the kids totally changed personalities and voices. It was also unexplained. Yeah, we're told they're faking and they know what to do because they've seen a lot of scary movies, but I still want to know how they completely changed their voices without any audio equipment or acting experience. Overall, it's okay for a haunting book, but it was ruined by Nancy's new personality. If Nancy was a good detective, not a wimp, this book would have been so much better. I know the idea is that readers will be scared if Nancy's scared, but it doesn't work. I want the old Nancy Drew back. I want a Nancy Drew who doesn't pee her pants. I give Nancy Drew Diaries number 16 The Haunting on Heliotrope Lane, a 3 out of 10.